The big story, I guess, is the budget. The budget referendum, and it's been jockeyed about, thrown about for the last many weeks. So, is it going to pass? Is it going to fail?
I think it's going to. I have an inkling it's going to fail.
It's going to fail.
That's not to say it's a bad budget. I'm just predicting what could happen. It seems like there's not a unified front coming up, and which is odd because it was, I believe, unanimously voted for by the town council. Yet there's not.
That's arguable.
Right, technically,
yeah,
it was.
Yes.
But it's not. There's not a lot of people coming out and saying this is the greatest budget in the world.
No. What do you think, Christine? Is this going to pass, or is it going to be? It's not going to be voted for.
You know what? I think that we could end up being surprised. We could, but if you go by the poll that we have on our site,
EastHamptonReport.com.
EastHamptonReport.com.
And you can go to that. You can go to that site and vote. It's not too late.
It's showing a larger number of people who would vote against it. But at the same time, we did another poll asking if people would vote for vote against a 4% increase in pay raises for teachers if it meant cutting jobs, and nobody's willing to do that either. So I don't know. We could be surprised.
Okay.
I think education.
You're looking at a no mill increase?
Could be. There's a lot of people that I think are demanding that. I think that in another year, this would be a budget that most people would be.
It would sail through in a good economic time.
Perhaps would. And in fact, the general government side is down. I mean,
yeah.
There's no question that some people scrimped and saved on this budget. I don't think. But
no, on its face, it's a good budget. But the point is, it just raises taxes where people are in a foul mood. They don't want to pay. They don't want any taxes raised, which I think this is a wake-up call, I think, for the state government and the feds, too. Don't be raising my taxes.
See, I think that it's almost a failure on somewhere to point out. Tom Cordero actually said it best when he feared.
He's a councilman.
Councilman in
East Hampton.
Yep, a Republican councilman who said he fears the voice of gloom and doom, and I think he was really right on with that. And there's a lot of voice of gloom and doom without really pointing out that if you just stop spending, what happens? What's going to happen? People aren't stupid. People understand if you just explain it to them, I believe. And I don't think that's been done in East Hampton. I think that everyone, like you've said, has been so afraid of holding that. And
nobody's come out, like, none of the elected folks have come out and said, yeah, vote pass this budget, got to do this, got to do this. It's like, I don't see any like go out and even vote signs.
Right.
Like, remember, it's Tuesday, you got to vote.
Right.
I don't even see those things.
Yeah, no conviction. There's kind of a lack of conviction.
Yeah, well, I think there's not conviction all the way around.
Right.
I mean, I had correspondence with John Tuttle today briefly.
Another town council.
Right. I'm sorry. Right. Another town councilman. He's a Democrat, and he sounded excited about the budget. He seemed to be in strong support of it. So I wouldn't say that there's no one on the town council that's excited about the budget, but it's not 7 people coming out there waving the banner saying you've got to vote for it. I think so. I think in the past couple meetings and hearings, we've had residents come out and saying, I'm seeing people taking pay cuts here, and seeing people taking pay cuts here in the private sector, and so far, none of the unions, teachers, general government, or otherwise, I believe, have come to any kind of formal agreement for any kind of concessions. I think people are a little bit sore about that.
Oh yeah.
And they might come after. They might end up in layoffs if there aren't concessions made by some of the unions.
Did you see some people saying that they want to renegotiate the teacher's contract?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think people are very clear on what that means. I have to admit I was the same way until Dr. Golden, superintendent of schools, explained it. Really, it's more about not necessarily lowering the raises or doing concessions. It's more about the whole other can of worms that you open up when you reopen negotiations. I think there's a lot more to it than what you might. It's not simple. I think the ones that are most sore about it are those, in fairness, that I've heard at some of the meetings, are those that don't have kids in school. And not to say that all people who don't have kids in school don't want it, because there's those who've had kids in school in the past or who went to school there too, who say, I would rather you raise my taxes than cut teachers. But for the most part, a lot of the naysayers, I think, are those who say, look, I don't even have a kid. why am I paying all this money for education? Without really understanding, I think that it goes to the bigger picture, you know.
Yeah, they're missing the big picture.
Yeah,
Right.
There might be a situation where the teachers are aware that the East Hampton has a pretty healthy fund balance right now. That's not to say it's not where it should be. I don't know I don't know either way, but they've got a pretty good looking fund balance, and I think maybe some unions are hesitant to make concessions when that money's sitting there.
I mean, Jody Rells did the exact same thing. She's taking some out of the rainy day fund. They call it the rainy day fund, but it's actually the fund balance of the state.
Right.
And they're pinching some out of that. So if this is not a rainy day, well, what does a rainy day look like?
That's a good question with good arguments on both sides.
You know,
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. So my vote is, I think people have just got to come out in gurneys and IV posts. Those people are going to come out and vote no. They're just going to come out and vote no on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to move, but that's just me. So I guess, Mike, you say no. You're saying, maybe, who knows? You're an optimist.
Well,
so,
I don't think that they did a good enough job, in, like
selling
you said, in selling it
and
putting it out there,
yeah.
make people aware. Because in reality, it's a lot less than a cut to the governmental budget. I mean, it's even less than that because of their revenues going down. So they took a pretty hard cut.
Is this like an issue that is like under the radar a little bit, but it's like rampant? You get that feeling out there?
I don't know that I've ever talked to anyone who's said, and I've also never frequented East Hampton bars, but I've never gotten the feeling that East Hampton is this haven for kids who want to drink underage.
One thing about it, it's a very close-knit town.
Right.
You know, when
A lot of chatter. So if there's one place that's known for doing something, they tell all the other kids.
True, but most of these bar owners are not going to, I don't think. And according to the police chief, I mean, they do frequent checks throughout the year. He said they do it on top of what the Liquor Commission does. He said most of the establishments in East Hampton are above the bar there.
Above the
So,
bar? Yeah, okay.
you know, but like I said, they did the investigation there after the accident, and they didn't find any fault except for administrative stuff, like you said in your story, their permit.
Right.
And they were, I guess, getting alcohol from an unauthorized distributor or something like that. But, you know, so.
I don't see anybody talking about water. I don't think about the facilities development with new buildings, and there was a lot of talk about that stuff last fall and this past winter, but not too much now.
Yeah, as far as facilities, that might be the biggest project. That seemed to have gotten more talk than water in recent months.
Right.
Melissa Engel, the town council chairman, is hoping to have a referendum as early as the fall. So yeah, there is talk about moving forward with that.
That's a big ticket item.
Sure.
And if they can't pass a budget with a 0.37 mil increase, my God, this was a $50 million project or more.
I think a lot of that's going to depend, as far as how that goes, is going to depend on presentation and also the economy, you know.
Yeah, and as far as, so if the economy stays the way it is, that the issue just kind of goes away?
I don't think anybody's going to want to tackle that if the economy stays as it is, but I don't think it will stay that way because I'm an optimist. So.
Good. So, all right. So, all us pessimists out there
Yeah.
say that if things stay the way they are or they get worse, you're not going to hear about these issues for the next 6 months.
Well, that's what she's promised.
Yeah.
She's promised to bring this up as an issue?
Well, she said that if the economy gets worse, you know, or, you know, well, this was back months ago. So, you know, she said if the economy gets worse, then it's just not the time for it. You know.
So that's off the front burner, off the back burner, back on the shelf then, if things aren't looking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess no one wants to move forward like this as it is right now.
Right. You're right. Everything is kind of quieted down, and nobody's really picking up any issues or topics and saying.
I don't know if you could link the slowdown, that sort of slowdown to gridlock. Although there, you know, I guess there could be questions about what a 2-2-3 split on a town council would do, but.
There's obvious dissent on the councils. I mean, I think anyone who goes to their meetings would say that. Probably 90% of the time, there's usually that split. But I think the economy is a huge part of the quiet right now.